Lucy Letby, Serial Killer. Why She Killed, Part 6. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. We are continuing our examination of the evidence to make a determination as to what Lucy Letby is, so that we can understand why she killed. Many people would not be able to, nor would they be even able to contemplate the taking of another life. Some people could understand circumstances where it might be necessary, or even legitimate. But that would be with regard to an adult. Many people would be finding it incomprehensible to take a life of a child, especially a baby, one that may only be a day old, and in particular, one that was in an environment of trust, being in a hospital environment where supposedly life is to be saved, not taken. The information that they've received about Lucy Letby seems at such odds with her behaviour, leading to all manner of speculation as to what she actually might be. To help us formulate a decision in that regard, we need to look at her life, what her childhood was like, what her teenage years were like, what her family dynamic was like, what was she like at work, what was she like with her friends, what about her intimate relationships. And we've been touching on some of those things. Now we're going to examine her behaviour when she found herself involved with the police. Letby was described as cool and devoid of emotion when talking about the murder of babies in her care, the police officer who interviewed her stated. Might this suggest an absence of emotional empathy, seen with psychopath or narcissist? Might it be that the circumstances resulted in that muted response? After all, Lucy Letby was not someone, as we know from her background information, who was in and out of police stations, and it may well be the case that finding herself in such an environment affected her to provide her with a muted response. Detective Sergeant Stonier said that the Lucy Letby you saw in court was the Lucy Letby I interviewed. Her tone, her approach to answering questions, even the pauses, were very much the same. Some of the evidence and statements we were putting to her were really, really graphic in detail. The allegations were horrific. Some people would be flipping the tables, throwing the chairs, banging the doors down, saying, "Look, you need to go and speak to such and such. I shouldn't be here. This is completely wrong." But Lucy Letby was calm. She was quite cool. She answered the questions. She was confident with the answers. She talked, but there was no emotion. Was this because she was innocent, and therefore felt able to explain herself, and felt that she had nothing to worry about? Alternatively, was this the cold, calm, measured response of a psychopath, able readily to deal with the situation that she was in, unable to experience anxiety? Perhaps this was the behaviour of a narcissist, unperturbed because she was the centre of attention. She was the main character in what was unfolding. And even though she was being asked questions and challenged, she was receiving fuel from the officers, that it was all about her, and she was lapping it up. She was able to draw in that fuel, and, as a consequence of her own knowledge, allied with her arrogance and innate sense of superiority, something that we've heard about earlier on, felt that she was easily able to field the questions that were being put to her. She knew better. Letby, 33, was arrested and questioned 3 times by officers from Cheshire Police in July 2018, June 2019 and November 2020, when she was finally charged. In total, she was quizzed for more than 21 hours over 8 days. Often suspects refuse to cooperate when arrested for serious crimes, but Letby spoke to DS Stonier and her colleagues for long periods, often explaining complex medical procedures and terms, and providing them with details and information which they were eventually able to use to build the case against her. Was this someone who was just trying to help and made schoolgirl errors with the disclosure of the information? Or was this the behaviour, perhaps, of a psychopath who thought that she was cleverer than those questioning her? Or was it a narcissist that was revelling in being the centre of attention, thinking herself cleverer, but then falling prey to the law of collateral consequences by giving information to police officers which could then be used against her? Asked why Letby hadn't simply answered no comment to their questions, Mrs. Stonier said, "We were putting to her witness statements and medical evidence. She obviously wanted to hear that. If she had gone, no comment, we were going to disclose further information. She wanted to get more information out of us. She wanted to know what we'd got on her. The police officer might be correct, or that may just be her interpretation of the circumstances, not understanding the personality that she was dealing with. It might be that if Letby is a narcissist, her need for control was such that she needed to get information out of the police officers. Similarly, as a psychopath, she wanted to have that control over the police officers by receiving information. Dear Stonier said the big moment came when officers revealed the results of blood tests to Letby, which proved 2 of the babies had been deliberately poisoned 8 months apart with insulin. The 33-year-old was later forced to admit in the witness box that the drug could not have been given to the children accidentally, although she maintained neither had been poisoned by her. She had little to no understanding of that, Mrs. Stonier added. I remember reading out those results, and I don't think she knew what it meant. Even when Letby was charged, she remained composed, Mrs. Stonier said. It was the same Lucy Letby we'd seen, the officer added. She listened to all the charges. A third of the way through, you could feel some emotion coming through from her. But was it emotion of the severity of the offences, or a feeling of, I'm not going home? Mrs. Stonier said Letby was not wailing or crying. Now, certain narcissists would put on a show of wailing and crying in such circumstances to assert control and draw fuel. Others may well remain calm and aloof. She appeared composed, the officer added. She remained stood up. You see all kinds of emotions in that situation from people. The natural thing is to cry, and then it becomes uncontrollable. Other people put their fingers in their ears and completely ignore it. She has this ability to mentally switch off, to disengage, just to get through it. Might that be where she's essentially moving to a position of withdrawal in order to assert control? Or is she very much detached in the form of a psychopath? Other officers described Letby as beige and vanilla, said Mrs. Stonier, who agreed that the fact that Letby was essentially anonymous helped her get away with her crimes. Once again, of course, this is the mentality of people thinking that burglars go around wearing striped jerseys and a bag with swag and wear a mask. Many individuals who commit crime don't look like what you think would be criminals. Lucy Letby is indescribable. If you were to walk past her in the street, there's nothing distinctive about her. She wouldn't stand out, she added. She blended into that neonatal unit. She made friends with some of the families and colleagues and kept herself abreast of what was going on a day-to-day basis. Even when she was off duty, I'm confident if you had asked her which babies were on the unit at that time and who was caring for them, she would know. Whilst that's speculation on the part of the police officer, it might be indicative, of course, of an individual who took her work very seriously and was very much invested in caring, or somebody who needed control and therefore had to have knowledge of what was going on. She was always in the thick of it. Her life was being a neonatal nurse, explained the police officer. Again, is this someone who is fully immersed in the commission of her duties because she has considerable emotional empathy for those that she was looking after, or is it simply someone who lives through that work because it enables her to control things and access to the prime aims? Dear Stonier said Letby's crimes were so horrific they were incomprehensible. Having interviewed her and spent time with her, to think she is responsible for that grief, to all those parents, to think she has done this, I still can't comprehend it. Observations there from one of the police officers involved in the investigation against Lucy Letby, which provides us with additional insight into her responses and behaviours as we compile the evidence. Join me in the next part as we continue to work through the information to make a determination about what Lucy Letby is. And we're going to see how she responded to cross-examination in court.